Thanks for checking out this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. We're going to be talking about the top 10 things that you can do to get the most out of 7-on-7 for your football team. This will not be about how to win 7-on-7 games or win 7-on-7 tournaments, because I think that is pretty much worthless. 7-on-7 is a great drill. It's a great way to work with your team in the offseason when you can't put the pads on. But it will not ultimately, wins in 7-on-7, winning a tournament, it will not carry over to the season. But you can get great things out of 7-on-7. So we're going to talk about, you don't need to focus on winning in April or June in a 7-on-7 tournament, because they don't count. What counts is when you win in September and October and November and hopefully December, depending on how long into this year your team plays, or your state plays. So I'm looking at this from high school football teams. I don't care about the private club teams and all that sort of stuff. Some of them I'm sure are good. I don't care about all that stuff. I don't care about the big national tournaments. I don't care about any of that. I care about my high school football team, your high school football team, using this as a way to get better on offense and on defense in the offseason so that we can win football games when it counts, when it matters. So that's what we're talking about today with the top 10 things that you need to do to get the most out of 7-on-7. That's a really long title for it. Let's try something different. Top 10 things you need to do to prepare your team for 7-on-7 this offseason. So number one on the top 10 things that you need to do to prepare your football team for 7-on-7 this offseason is run your offense. Don't waste this time. We used to play a team in 7-on-7, and I love this. Now, I've already at the beginning said what I think about 7-on-7, and it probably sounds pretty bad, but it's not that I hate 7-on-7. I hate the way that it gets treated sometimes. And you guys mostly have, if you're a football coach, you've been coaching for a few years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a sensible football coach. So, we used to play a team a few years ago, and we did this stuff on the weekends. We would get together on the weekends with some teams from the area. Sometimes, we had a couple different groups of teams that we could get together with, and we would just get together and play a couple games, like 9 to 11 a.m. or something like that. A couple hours on a Saturday morning, get out there, everybody gets moving. It was very friendly. It was, a group of coaches who knew each other, had been coaching, for the most part, been coaching in the area for a while. At that point, at least, assistant stuff, maybe some head coaches have changed, maybe some coordinators have changed. But for the most part, everybody kind of knew each other and knew how it went, and everybody was using it as a chance to get better. It was one of those things where we weren't really keeping score. We were, we'd stop the play. If we did something wrong, we'd stop the play. If we maybe had a coverage mistake, a blown coverage on defense, I was a coordinator for most of the time, defensive coordinator for most of the time that we're doing this. We'd, hey coach, can you line that back up? And I sit out there and tell them. And I don't care that they're going to know exactly what our coverage is. Hey, this is how we adjusted this. You got him, you do this. Okay. We go out there and we talk through it. We got something out of it. And believe me, those kids they weren't taking notes. They were there on a Saturday morning too, just trying to learn their offensive plays. And it was great. But I remember one team in particular would come out and they ran double and triple move routes all the time. It was always these out and up. And I remember there was an out and up and out route that was run at one point. And they were using the full, it was self-policed, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004 sack. Right? You call your own sacks, basically, on your quarterback. And they were using the full 4 count and a little bit here and there. And they were keeping track of score, and they were there to win. And they were terrible when the season started. When the pads came on, they were horrible. Because their offense was based on running the ball. And they had done nothing to prepare for it. Run your offense and your pass plays. What I mean by that is, and I've seen, like, I know it's hard if you're a double wing team. But, maybe if you're a double wing team, you need to have, I know double wing guy is going to be like, why would we need that? You need to have, maybe a passing game that you're going to run if you're down by 25. Like, how would that ever happen to you? I know you're double wing. Like, you don't ever get down by, you start the game up 3 touchdowns because you're a double wing team. But maybe, just maybe, you run into somebody that gets up on you. Work something that you might actually use. I remember playing against a wing T team. I mean, straight up old school Delaware wing T. And they played 7-on-7, and it was like a hitch here and there, but they were play action passing. And it pretty competitive. They were going to win tournaments. But when the season started, they were going to win games. And I think that's so much more valuable. Within the Pistol Power offense system, we're running. Now, we're going to run a lot more smash because people are running, just as an example, we're going to run smash because we're going to play teams that are going to run 2-man. Now, I hate playing a team that's running 2-man all of 7-on-7. I think that there's a time and a place that you can run some 2-man because I'll probably run a little bit of 2-man in season. But it's not going to be my base. It's not going to be what I'm going to do the whole time. I hate playing the team that goes out there and just lines up and plays 2-man the entire time. Like, how's that going to work out for you when the season starts? Just curious. Just curious. Because the teams that you need to beat are wing T, double wing, power counter. How's that, how's that 2-man going to work for you? But back to the offense. We run a lot more smash than we would, we don't see that much cover 2. We run some two-man beaters. Now, a lot of our 2-man beaters I like against quarters as well. So that's okay. And it actually works out because we get, you get more quarters in 2-man. And you should get more because nobody's running the ball. So cover 3 is, unfortunately, and we'll talk about this when we get to the defensive segment, cover 3 is not a great, coverage all the time in 7-on-7. So you don't see much of it with good reason. But we'll come back around to that. Just run your offense. Don't waste your time running a full package of 7-on-7 plays. Most of the calls that you make should be calls that you would make in season. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, unless you're an air raid team or something, you're going to be calling a lot more passes, well, all passes. You're not going to be calling your play actions unless you want to. You're going to be, for the most part, calling things that the drop back passes. And you may only call in high school football, a lot of us, 10, 15, 20 in a game. But at least you're calling things that you will actually call during the regular season. Now, I like that we work a lot of smash because we probably won't run smash 8 out of 10 games. It won't even be in the package during the regular season. It might be week 6 before we need to run smash concept, before somebody's actually running quarters or cover 2. So we got a lot of work on it in the offseason. That's what I want to run in 7-on-7. I want to run some of the things that, the reality is in season, I'm calling a lot of hitch, a lot of fade, a lot of 3-step because there's guys up there running at me. I'm calling a little bit of it, but a lot more post. Maybe not as much post. Post is more cover 0, and you're not getting cover 0. But I'm calling, deep out a lot. I'm calling smash way more than I normally would. Probably calling Poco a little more than I normally would. Post corner, which is a double move, but it's part of the package. So I'm calling those things more than I normally would, but they're part of the offense. And I like that. Just make sure what you're calling is part of your offense. Don't call a bunch of 7-on-7 garbage. Like, You better not be running a 7-on-7 playbook, I think is what this boils down to. Run your system. Number 2, don't let your quarterback develop bad habits. So we talked about the 4-second clock, and a lot of it is self-policed. It'll get policed by officials, maybe in a tournament. A lot of those officials are like kids, parents, just whoever they can get. A lot of times, unless you're in a really big tournament. But do not let your quarterback develop bad habits, because 4 seconds is too long. Okay? Offensive line coach. Me. I am an offensive line coach. I listen to the big kids. I like them, and they are going to win you a lot of football games that you won't win if they're not good or they're not happy. They're usually happy. I mean, they're pretty good guys, right? Offensive linemen should not be protecting for 4 seconds. Do I ask that of them? Yes. We run a drill. Do we protect for 7 seconds? Every single time. If the quarterback doesn't have the ball out in our system, Pistol Power Offense system, JoeDanielFootball.com, PistolPowerOffense.com/podcast to get it. PistolPowerOffense.com/podcast. Okay, link down in the description below on the video. Link in the show notes. 20207V7. JoeDanielFootball.com/2020-7V7. If the quarterback in our system does not get the ball out in 2.8 seconds, then it is on him if he gets sacked. If he gets sacked at 2.7, or I guess at 2.8, that's on the offensive line. If he gets sacked at 2.9, that's on him. So, not in a major tournament or, a big tournament, a big situation, a thing where the kids are really feeling like, I'm not going to, we want to compete, and we're going to compete within the rules. And so the rare tournament that I've gone to, signed up for, because I don't really like them. But when we do, maybe 1 or 2 tournaments a year, and the teams that I've been with, I'm not going to do it to them here, right? But in most of our 7-on-7 work, and if I will do it if we should be winning the game and he's holding the ball too long. Like, I won't sit back and watch him hold the ball 4 seconds. But I'm not going to blow in a big tournament, it's going to be policed by someone else. And I'm not going to say, well, he got sacked. Okay. I will. I actually have, but if I'm policing it, which is most of the time, he gets 3 seconds. Because I can't count 2.8 in my head and I'm not holding a stopwatch all day. But he's not getting 4. If he's holding the ball for 4, our routes are timing routes. The ball should be gone by 2.8. And I go back and look at 200 passes thrown, 400 passes over the last 2 full seasons that I've looked at, and if he threw the ball after 2.8, it was because he was moving. Okay? And that's a thing. But, I can't give him credit for moving in 7-on-7. There's no pass rush. So he doesn't get 4 seconds. All right? Those things happen in a game, but I don't want him to get into that bad habit. I don't want him to get into the habit of holding the ball too long. So when you police it, call sacks at 3 seconds. For me, in my system. Now, whatever your system is, whatever you do, fine. But if you're running Pistol Power Offense, and most 5-step game, that ball needs to be out in under 3. Don't let your quarterback develop bad habits. I hate seeing quarterbacks standing back there holding the ball for 4 seconds. Yeah, it's really hard to cover for 4 seconds. And he'll find somebody open usually. Especially if they're playing man, 2-man. But it's really hard to protect for 4 seconds, too. So get your quarterback to get the ball out on time. Number 3, work on press releases. 2 things. You probably won't see really good press coverage in most places. And there's always somebody who's like, oh, we see incredible press. Okay, most places, you will not see great press coverage technique in the regular season. Maybe not in your regular season, maybe in the playoffs you will. Or maybe you've got one team. Kind of like what I talked about with Smash. In 7-on-7, you will probably see a lot of press coverage. You will probably see decent press coverage in some cases. Sometimes you'll see terrible. Sometimes you'll just see getting completely mugged, but nobody's throwing a flag. I don't like it when I'm coaching the offense. I also don't teach hands in press coverage, so I don't like my guy out there mugging somebody either. Used to do it. I don't believe in teaching hands at all. At first. I think that builds bad habits too. And I watch so many DBs lunging, trying to punch or something with their hands, and then they're getting smoked instead of playing the man with their feet and their eyes. But work on press releases with your receivers. Work on punching and ripping, pulling the wrist by. Okay, for the most part, rip moves, taking a couple jab steps one way and ripping back the other way, setting up the release, for the most part, will get you off of most press coverage. It'll do, if you're talking 80-20, you don't have a lot of time, and you shouldn't be spending a ton of time. You need to be in the weight room, and your kids need an off season, and you need an off season, okay? Mr. Hashtag no off season, cut that crap out. Take a break, dude. Kids want to take a break. You need to take a break. Work on your press releases. You will get mugged. Okay, they will take your lunch money sometimes, and it's not coverage, and it's not going to be legal in the regular season, but it's a great chance. Just take advantage of it, take it for what it is, and take advantage of the opportunity to work on your press releases. Okay, learn press releases for your receivers. Again, I think a punch and a rip, same thing that we would teach a defensive lineman, goes a long way. I think everybody on the team can use a rip move at some point. Okay, it goes a long way. Just pulling by, throwing the hands by. If he gives you a hand, taking advantage of it. That's why I don't want to give a hand. Usually we get away with it. Giving two hands, like if he gives an offhand, it's hard to take advantage of it. Okay, if he gives the on hand, great. We can take advantage of that. We can pull it by. If he gives both hands, which is the most common thing that I see, just because of poorly taught technique and thinking that press coverage is about punching the guy in the face, he's going to be wrong because he gave you both hands. So one of them's the offhand and one of them's the on hand. I'll just take the on hand. Okay, knock it off, rip by. You get to his hip, you beat him. Work your press releases. Take advantage of the fact that they're going to give you press coverage and it's probably not going to get called if it's illegal. Take advantage of it. Learn something. Okay, number 4, get your running back involved. You know, our running back is always involved in the protection. If you're running a scheme where your running back is constantly releasing, is constantly involved in routes, that's great. But get your running back involved. One of the things that I'd like to do more of is get more empty packages where we're still running our basic concepts, but now the R is out of the backfield, running some sort of an additional concept. Maybe he's doing the same thing he would normally do, but normally he's a check release. And he does a lot of just running a little hook route. He gets the ball put in his belly, power counter in our Pistol Power Offense system, pistolpoweroffense.com/podcast to get the free video series on that. So, he's not going to be handed the ball, and I think it'd be a boring position. So make the R's position a little bit more exciting. You can take, if you've got a really athletic R, who's a feature player, you don't want him back there just check releasing, but you want to run your stuff, you can move him to a slot or something like that, or, somewhere else in your offense where you can get involved. I think that's great, but I'd like for our R to just, creative ways to get him involved that you might really like and use during the regular season. We do run empty packages, so, you can just get your empty packages involved there and get him, do some things to get your R so that if your R is like ours and is doing a lot of protection, or maybe you've got a fullback in your offense or something like that, who's not generally a receiver, a primary receiver, just get them involved in some creative ways so that they've got things that they can do, plays that they can run. I know I hate to do the 7-on-7 routes, but one that we do against quarters is run our smash concept. And the way that the concept is drawn up, the R is running straight down the middle of the field, and against quarters, he's going to be wide open. Well, of course, normally he doesn't get to just clean release straight down the middle of the field, but we have that in 7-on-7 package. It's not a real route. I've had a Mike linebacker who was straight up in tears because some team was doing this to us. And, he was like, I can't run with that guy. And I'm like, dude, I know that. That's why you're Mike linebacker and not a safety. It's part of the game. It's okay. It's okay. We switched to cover one. Take care of that. But, you get your R involved. Get your R, or anybody who's not involved. If you don't normally throw the ball to your tight end, okay, get the ball to your tight end. If you need to flex him out to get the ball to him more, get the guys involved. Make it so that everybody can be involved in 7-on-7 because it should be fun. You should be learning. You should be getting better. But it should be fun. And if you've got someone in your offense who is like, I've always done this, but I get it more so now. I mean, like I'm more in touch with not being a jerk. We used to always bring the center. And if the center wants to come, that's great. If he wants to be around. But I get why a center doesn't want to be there snapping the ball all day or something, when he's not catching it. Like, let him line up or something like that. Throw him a pass. I've done that too, where I've just, we had a center who we would, he would snap like with the first group or whatever, and then he would always get to go out there and play some tight end or something like that later on. Big man catch football. They're athletes too. But get that running back involved. Number 5, and this, we kind of touched on this in number 1, run your offense, but it's okay to have some special plays. In other words, you don't go out there, and I've touched on this with getting the R more involved, just in general, getting the running back more involved, getting just different things that you can do. You don't have to, you can have some specials that are really cover 7 winners, They're not. That doesn't mean I still want to stay generally within the 4 seconds, okay, or within the 3 seconds, okay? I'm not talking about triple move routes. But you can have some specials in there that are maybe good 7-on-7 concepts that are in your system, but not a major part of your system. You might find one that you really like. I think it's always fine and recommended to have 1 or 2 special pass plays that are really just in for 7-on-7. Like they're really, they're a go-to, and I make sure our players understand that. Hey man, this is not a football play. This is a 7-on-7 drill play, and it might work. We're gonna try it out. It'll be fun. Do some different things. We use a lot of tags to create route concepts, but having something like a goal line. Now, one place you're really going to need this is the goal line, right? On the goal line, you're generally going to need some, we're talking from the offensive standpoint right now, some rub routes, some crossing, some little plays on the goal line. I hate the one where the running back just goes and runs 2 yards and turns around and stands in front of the end zone. Like, I hate that, but it's part of the game. So there's some different things you can do, but have some specials in there that are 7-on-7 type plays. All right, now we're going to turn around from the other side of the ball. So number 6 is going to be starting with our defensive stuff here. Number 6, much like number 1, run the coverage that needs the work. Now, the key here is run the coverage that needs the work. Your primary coverage is usually what I recommend running. What we teach, and especially as I'm updating the 4-2-5 system, I'm going to be updating the 4-3 system and the coverage packages that are already in with the other systems. I basically recommend at this point one of 2 coverage options. Number 1, you run quarters as your base coverage with a simple spot drop cover 3 as your secondary coverage. Number 2, you run either cover 1 as your base coverage with cover 3, spot drop cover 3 as your secondary coverage, or spot drop cover 3 as your primary coverage and cover 1 as your secondary. Because I love cover 3, which means simply this. You don't need to work your spot drop cover 3 unless if you are going full bore with it, like we're going to defend 4 verts, we're going to defend everything with it. If you're going full bore with it, then you need to run it. You're not going to win a lot of games, and that's okay. But you got to get better at that cover 3. So if you've decided like this is going to be what we do, even if they line up in 2x2 doubles formation, 10 personnel, we're still playing cover 3, even though that kid can sling it. Okay, you need to run cover 3 during 7-on-7. Then most of us, though, when we see that 2x2 10 personnel with a kid who can sling it, we're going to get into something else. Cover 1, or we're going to base coverage quarters. So I would mostly run the coverage that needs the work, which for 4-2-5 defense system, 33 stack, 4-3 defense system, or 3-4 defense system. If you're following one of those, probably means either quarters or split field is what's going to need the work, or cover 1 is going to need the work. One of those two is what you're going to be focused on. But run the coverage that needs the work. And if it's man, run press man and get really good at your press tech with your corners. I think it's very important. It's a good time for your free safety, too. You run your outside leverage overhang safeties. It's a good time for your free safety to learn to play hash to hash back there, too. Number 7, again, from the defensive side, focus on the technique. This could be an offensive one, too. Focus on the technique. Focus on press man technique. Focus on communication. Focus on the hip turn, man turn, zone turn, eyes, break the basket. How do we do all of these things? Focus on the technique. Too many guys worrying about the coverage concepts and how fancy they can be and how many checks they can have in their split field coverage and how many different coverages they can run. We run 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's impressive. Not a good idea, but impressive. You don't need to be trying to install 10,000 different coverages. Trying to trick a quarterback with nobody in his face. Focus on the technique. Get good at the technique. Your system and your coverage package shouldn't be so complex that after, a week or two, we're still worrying about who's got who. Focus on the technique of playing the position, whatever position that is. Have a great stance. Train the eyes. Number 8 feeds right into it, so we'll just go right into it. Number 8, don't let your linebackers especially, but your safeties or your outside linebackers too, don't let your linebackers develop bad habits. We talked about this with the quarterback. Every once in a while in your practice sessions, at least, and if you can have the other coach do it when you do, we talked about being there on the weekend, just getting work, great. Just ask him, hey, every once in a while, can you throw in a little draw play just for us? And we're not going to take it. We're not going to count it as a play on you, I think that's great. Throw in a little draw here and there. What I don't want is I don't want my linebackers, as soon as the ball is snapped, immediately throwing their hips open and backing up or backpedaling. For the love of God, don't backpedal. Or they're lining up 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. Because you'll get hurt on that in 7-on-7 too, by the way. Too much room and open space for a better athlete to make a move. So do not let your linebackers, I still have our linebackers read step. Okay, I know where they're going to go, but that's a good habit to get into. Read step, ball up, bail. Wait till you see that. If I run a play action, I want to see him holding for just a second on that play action. Making sure ball out. Okay. Now, we read guards for the most part, except for the 4-3 system. We read guards. If we're running 4-2-5, if you're running our 33 stack system, if you're running our 3-4 system, I recommend that you read guards for the most part. Their read isn't there, but I still want them taking a read step each time. I don't think the read step is that important as far as the actual play. I think it's just a timing step, but I don't want to see them immediately running out of there. Number 9, if you are an odd front, this is especially for odd fronts, have a plan, because obviously you're going to have 8 linebackers / DBs. Some teams will let you blitz one and he takes a knee. Of course, that always devolves into where the kid who's supposed to blitz forgets 3 plays in a row, picks the ball off, and then you're like, wait a minute. Something's weird. If you're a 33 stack, a lot of teams will do that. In tournaments, they're not going to let you do that. Have a plan, whether it is, hey, we're going to run our solid front, which is, the old Georgia military defense 4-2 front, or 4-4 front, whatever you want to call it. It's called solid. So 4-4. Okay, we're just putting in a defensive lineman. If you want to do that, if you're running our 3-4 defense system, the strong end is essentially or the Sam backer is essentially a strong end. So you might take him off the field. Now, I'd still, get him rotation at will so he gets the work because he's, or even at the safety, because he's going to be doing that. But, for the most part, he's going to be a defensive lineman, so I take him off the field. Just have a plan if you're an odd front, because you will not always be able to do your normal stuff. Number 10 is just a general, I could probably split this into 3 different things. This is just a general 7-on-7 piece of advice. Don't let 7-on-7 ruin your life or even have an inkling of getting to you in your life. Don't come home upset because you lost a tournament and be miserable all day Sunday with your wife and your kids. Because you didn't lose anything. It's not real. I know some of you guys are ultra competitive, and there's absolutely no way that you can ever look at something that has a scoreboard and not see it as the most important thing in the world. I get that. But I tell you again, this is just a drill. It's a competitive drill and sometimes a highly competitive drill, but just a drill. It will not equate to wins in the regular season. More important than that, don't go overboard scheduling tournaments and 7-on-7 dates every single weekend. It's not worth it. Take a break. You will be burned out in November. Your players will be burned out in November. And guess what happens in November? The games that really, really matter. The playoff games. Or late October, whenever your stuff happens. And you'll be like, well, my kids are tired. They're fatigued mentally and physically. Had a high rate of injuries because of mental and physical fatigue. I'm tired. I don't feel like breaking down film this weekend because I've been wearing myself down. And even if you like it and you're a head coach or a coordinator, some of your assistants don't. You say, well, I don't want to hire those guys. I don't want to work for you. So that works out. You don't hire us and we won't work for you. Take a break. Recharge. There is an off season, and it runs from December to the end of July. There and abouts. Take advantage of it. Don't go overboard scheduling tournaments. Don't get overexcited about the games. Don't expect your kids to cancel their life and their summer so that they can play stupid 7-on-7 drill every weekend. Somewhere along the way, this drill got out of hand. I hope you're in a place where you can bring it back to reality. Where you can live in reality, which is 7-on-7 doesn't matter. You can be competitive when you're there. You can be competitive the day of the tournament. The couple that you do. Your kids can be competitive. You can want to win. And at the end of the day, if you're, let's just, as an example, at the end of the day, if you're mad at one of your players who blew a coverage in June and it's eating at you, you need to step back. All that you're supposed to be doing, you and him, is learning. You compete? Yeah, you compete. But more important, when you do 7-on-7, you should be learning and you should be having fun with it. God forbid you go play 7-on-7 for a weekend and it's not fun. You go get these kids on a bus at 5 a.m. and cart them off 3 hours away to some college campus, run them around for 8 hours. It's 100 degrees. Feed them a crappy box lunch. Stop at the Dairy Queen on the way home. get them back at 10 o'clock at night or something, and nobody had fun, they're going to have fun at Dairy Queen. Everybody has fun at the Dairy Queen. Do they have Dairy Queen everywhere? Does everybody else know what that is, or is that just like a Southeast? I don't know how. I think it's more widespread than that. But anyway, we always stop at the Dairy Queen. Like, always. I don't know why. So my whole coaching life, Dairy Queen is the one place that I know is like, yep, come on, bring them in. Golden Corral, maybe. So, that's pricey, though. You got to get a good stipend. Just make sure it's fun. Have fun. Don't bring kids that don't get to play. If you bring a kid on a trip like that, he better get to play. Well, we got caught up. And I've done it. Look, I've done it. Well, we got caught up trying to win. Try to learn from that. On the bus ride home, I try to learn from that. When that kid's like, why did you make me come? I didn't play. Like, try to learn from that and be like, well, next time I got to make sure that kid plays. Learn. Get better as a football team. When I say it doesn't matter and you're like, well, it's great for team building, it's not that it isn't good for team building. There are things that can be positive that are like, this isn't the only way to build your team. Like, if you decide not to play 7-on-7 at all, you can still be pretty good. That's the truth. If you're running complex coverages, it's going to be harder. I love 7-on-7 for teaching teaching cover one technique, press man technique. I love 7-on-7. All of our kids should know the routes and their steps, because all we're doing, running routes and steps and timing. But we can't come out of it with bad habits. We should learn from it, but we should have fun with it. We should enjoy it. I probably come off as hating 7-on-7, and I don't. I just wish more coaches were using it for what it is. I wish that the 7-on-7 tournament landscape hadn't become a fundraiser in some places. One school that will remain nameless more than doubled their fee. More than doubled their 7-on-7 college. More than doubled their fee for high schools to come to 7-on-7. Why? We got new facilities. You didn't pay for them. Oh, they're really nice, though. Your kids are going to love them. I don't understand. I go to a tournament at Virginia Tech. Their facilities are nicer than yours. And it costs half. So I hope that was one school, and I hope it failed. I know a lot of teams didn't go when that happened. I hope it failed. I don't have a problem with somebody doing a fundraiser or whatever, but when it becomes, ridiculous, I would personally, I really truly enjoy getting together with a few teams nearby on a Wednesday night in the summer or on a Saturday morning in the spring, playing 7-on-7 for a couple hours, and then being done and going on with my weekend. I don't love all-day tournaments, but I do think it's fun to get out there and compete once or twice in the year. I think 7-on-7 has great value. I just think some coaches don't understand where that value lies. So, and I may be wrong. I may be misleading. I may be misled, mistaken. I may completely be missing the point of 7-on-7. I could be the one that's in the wrong, but I doubt it. It's usually not me. There's a little bit of sarcasm in that, but not a lot. Yeah, so that's it. 7-on-7, man. Good stuff. If it's done right.
And be sure to check out some of my other videos, including other videos from this podcast. And I've got a lot of other great coaching videos on this channel that you can check out that are shown down below here. Also, if you want to subscribe, make sure you don't miss any future videos. Just click on the logo on the top left of the screen.